Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you for another episode of the podcast. Today, we have Cinema Hearts and Miss Caroline, the lead singer. How are you tonight?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me.
So we first kind of found out about you at last year's South. I think because you played last year's South by as
We
well.
did. Yeah.
Did not get to see you, so we knew this year we were going to see you. So we featured you
hmm
on one of our Road to South by episodes. Being your second time at South by, like what was different this year? What do you
So it
love
was our
about this?
third year at South by.
Oh shit, third year.
Yeah, it's our third year at South by in 2026. A blast. I love going to South by Southwest. I'm sure you can relate. It feels like you're at a house show with the coolest bands from all over the world. It's like I think what's really neat. Um, I'm gonna kind of I my background was in beauty pageants. I'm gonna relate to that. In a pageant, the best representative from each state went on to like the Miss America pageant. South by Southwest, the best local band of every individual city goes to Austin and they play with each other. They compete in a way. But it's just really cool to see a lot of, I was telling my bandmates, it felt very anti-algorithm to discover new music at South by Southwest because you're stumbling upon it by just walking into a bar or, walking by a sidewalk. There was this great country act I saw at a Hole in the Wall just because we happened to be by Hole in the Wall and we're like, let's just go in. We need something to do. I found this amazing country singer and I wouldn't have found his music otherwise. So I think that's kind of the magic of South by Southwest.
And the other magic about it is venues like Hole in the Wall, like places
Right.
like Lucky Duck, places like Hotel Vegas. Like talk about these venues that make the city so great.
What's cool about Austin is there's so many venues for live music. Like where I'm based in Washington D.C., we have a lot of venues for being such a small city. But like Austin, whole nother level. And I think it's great because I feel like South by could only happen in a city like Austin where they do support live music and they do support emerging artists in that way by giving smaller bands, smaller artists a chance on those stages. And it's just so cool. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's glamorous by any means, but I just think it's great that there's clearly a passion.
Yeah. So you guys did what, 4 shows in 3 days this year?
We did 4 shows this year. Last year we did six, and I was like, I don't think I can do six again, guys. So we did four.
But I mean, to someone who's not familiar with the festival,
hmm
even for them to hear like, "Oh, you did 4 shows in 3 days," like that's a crazy amount.
It's
Like,
pretty wild.
yeah, talk about that. I mean, like the what you have to do to prepare yourself for that.
Um, oh, you have to sleep. And you know what's crazy? When we do a lot of shows at South by, I feel like we don't really get to go see a lot of shows because we're just like really tired or else we're playing a show and it's at the same time as another band that we wanted to see and we're like, oh, we can't go. But in when you're playing like in your hometown city, it would be really weird to have two shows in one week. That's weird. Let alone two shows in one day. But at South by Southwest, it is expected and it is okay. I've heard stories of bands where they'll do like 5 shows in a day, which that's crazy. This like you just wake up and go, go, go. Um, but I think it just kind of lends itself to like South by Southwest is full of music lovers and it's full of people who want to discover new things and give new sounds a chance. And what I think is really cool is this year was kind of one of the first years where people would come like who've seen us before. Or we've also had times where people would come see a second Cinema Heart show during the South by week. And I was like, you just saw this set. like, but they wanted to come see it again. And that's just something really special. And I guess it also goes to show like the ephemera of live performance. Like no two performances are ever the same. So when you go and see a local band or go see your favorite band play more than one time, there's still something very magical about that connection.
and there's a timestamp, it's
Hmm.
who you're with, how you're feeling, like what drinks you had, like
Right. Yeah. It's
did
the
you
whole
smoke
experience.
right, did you smoke a joint that night, like was there,
Hmm.
there's so much attached to that that makes it so, amazing. So, we talked about like interesting venues in Austin, but I mean, you guys have played some interesting venues in DC. You've played the Smithsonian Museums, like I want to
Yeah.
hear about that.
That's so only in DC. Yes, we've played the Hirshhorn Museum, and I DJ'd at the National Asian Art Museum. And then these aren't Smithsonian, but we did play the Phillips Collection, which is a private museum. And it is so cool that one thing I love about Washington, D.C., it's such a sophisticated culture. And there are people who come from all over the world. It's a very transient city. So you get to experience so many different art forms from all different parts of the globe. So it's been pretty cool to be able to like play rock music, and then you have like these like fantastic paintings in the background, or like when we were with the Hirshhorn, we were in the sculpture garden. So it's really cool to be able to do that.
Some good Instagram moments too, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
For the social. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good segue. Like, what is your, because as much as we want this to be just art, it's obviously also a commodity. So you're trying to sell something to people. Like, how much is social media like a part of your like daily life?
So much so that I will obsess and lose sleep over it. But you know what I think of? Um, it's really funny because a lot of my friends are like, "Wow, Caroline, you're so good at being online." Um, I think of what Lin-Manuel Miranda, the composer of Hamilton, said, where he loved social media because you have an audience in your pocket. So if you're someone who's addicted to performing, you just pull out your phone and you have an audience right there. And that's kind of how I feel about it. And I just like the way I like to think of like social media is I just want to tell people about cool events going on or the concerts we're hosting, or I do DJ nights, and I there's usually no cover, and people all the time are always saying, "What's there to do in the city? I don't know what to do." Like, let me tell you. Or one of my least favorite things is when I see a cool event or I see that a friend's band played. I didn't even know about it. They gave me no time, they gave me no notice. And I was like, why didn't you guys post this? I would have loved to have some advance notice. So when musicians post online, it's a gift to your audience. You're telling them what is going on in the world of cinema hearts. And what I also think is cool is like, we do tour, but the majority of our shows are in our hometown in DC. But I just love that we can connect with fans all over through social media. Like, I do this cool thing where I'll Instagram live as many of our concerts as I can. So all the shows we did at South by Southwest, I actually streamed to Instagram. And the joke is like, oh, so our moms and girlfriends and boyfriends can watch, but it's also just so anyone can watch. There's times when I know a friend's band is playing, and I, for whatever reason, like if it's I have work or I'm just not feeling like going out and I still want to support them, I wish they would stream it. So I think it's kind of like an untapped way of being able to connect with people. And it's cool to be able to meet other bands through the internet. So many of the bands we met at South by were like bands that we connected with ahead of time on the internet.
So you started playing music. Well, you didn't start playing music at 18, but
Hmm.
you started playing guitar at
I
age
did,
18.
yeah.
So being, a multi-instrumentalist, do you typically write your songs on piano or do you write your songs on guitar?
When I started, I wrote them all on guitar. Even though I have played piano longer, I've played piano since I was 5, and then I played guitar since I was 18. But I have a hand injury from too much guitar playing, so I can't always play guitar as much as I'd like. So I did pivot to piano for our most recent songwriting. But what's cool about the piano is there's only one key for the one note. Whereas on guitar, you can play one note many, many different ways.
Right.
So it's really neat to be able to get like different voicings. It's always interesting to like translate a song I wrote on piano and then have to adapt it to guitar or vice versa.
Sure. Is it easier to harmonize like based on a piano based song or a
For
guitar?
me, it is
Yeah.
just because like that's my background. So actually, when I'm in the studio, I record all the vocal harmonies on our records, and when I'm in the studio, I bring this little keyboard with me, and I'll plug my headphones in, and this is my hack. I will play the note on the piano that I need to sing, and then just record it. So like in the final take, you can't hear me playing that keyboard, but it's really helpful because I write these complicated harmonies. I've had to write sheet music. Like it's gotten intense.
That's yeah. Well, okay. So has that always been that way, or has that been kind of more of
No.
an evolution?
No. When I was first making demo albums with my brother and we recorded like a few like songs that we put on Bandcamp, I would just wing it. I was like, "Oh, I can totally like sing up a third or down a third." No, I couldn't. It sounded really bad. Because sometimes folks, those demos are no longer on the internet. Sorry. I mean, if someone really wants them, I guess email me. But sometimes, like some diehard fans will be like, asking me about those demo albums, like they want to hear it, and I was like, no, you don't. They're not very good.
So when you were doing like these, 20-minute, 30-minute sets, and I mean, you have a
Hmm.
a decent catalog of songs now, like how hard is it to try and, figure out these set lists to, to get the most out of the audience as well as, out of
It's. I think I would say like, yeah. When we play back at home and we're given like the 40-minute set, and there's like time to breathe and time to yap on stage. That is kind of the ideal. So it is tough that when we're like I when we played a DIY music festival yesterday, Riot DC Fest, and we had to do a 20-minute set. And I was like, what do we play? And it's like, only the hits. But Cinema Heart songs are so short for the most part. Like they're usually like 3 minutes long. So sometimes it's hard to just fill time. Because I've gotten requests for gigs where they want us to play an hour, and that's when I panic because I'm like, I don't have enough music. Like if we just blast through the set list, you can get through it in like a clean 25 minutes.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess that means new music is upon us then, correct?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Can you share or what can you share?
So here's what I can share.
Yeah.
If you see Cinema Hearts live, the majority of songs that we play are new songs. They're recorded, but they're not yet released. We have finished recording a 10-song album. Um, and my big goal of the past few years has been to write and record a full-length album, get it on a label. So now we're at the point of get it on a label. So if any labels listening really want to give me their pitch, let's connect. But that's going to be the next thing. So I'm trying to get it out maybe by this year, maybe by next year.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, like the this notion now, especially nowadays, like that you have to have an album out to succeed. I mean, there's so many artists that are, going against that are just either releasing
Yeah,
singles or
that's funny because I thought that and then I released a single and then it went nowhere. And it was a damn good song. So everyone listened to Kinda High School by Cinema Hearts. And here's what I realized because I had a publicist who worked on my two EPs and I was like, "Hey, do you want to work on the single?" And she said, "Oh, well, most of the time like we don't do publicity for singles unless it's connected to an album." And I was like, "Oh." So in the world of rock music, which I think is still very traditional,
yeah.
I love this quote by Jack Antonoff, album is God. Like the album is the artistic statement, the album is the movement. And I think in other genres, like yeah, it's a singles world. But I think for the most part in our genre, it's still very much like here's the album. And I really wanted to make an album and push myself to do that because like a lot of the music I'm inspired by, I collect vinyl. I have a big record collection, and those are full length albums, and that's what these artists are remembered for. Like I collect the 45 singles too, but like it's not always like what was the artistic statement. So pushing myself to make the album, it was tough. There were times I wanted to give up, but I'm happy I did it.
Well, Caroline, you and I have at least a little bit of similarity because I I'm a huge vinyl fan. I have a decent collection. My dad gave me his collection, so
Hmm.
I got lucky with that. But talk about this Tiki Vinyl night that you got
Ooh.
doing because it's like I think I would be willing to drive 2 hours
Oh my
to
gosh, wait,
do this. Like,
come.
seriously,
Okay.
it sounds awesome. Tell the
So
people.
I've always been into like surf rock, and I think a lot of this is because my favorite band is La Luz, and they're a newer band that were from Seattle, and they do like a surf rock psychedelic sound. But I've always loved 60s music. So I have a big surf rock collection, like, Dick Dale, The Ventures, Link Ray, that kind of stuff. And I love DJing vinyl. And I've done a lot of DJ nights before where sometimes I would like lean on the surf because like sometimes when I lock in and I'm doing all instrumental surf, which is very hard because you have to remember the melody, you can't remember words. There are no words. It's so sick. It's very Pulp Fiction. And I wanted a place to be able to DJ that sound. So I emailed every tiki bar near me and I was like, hey, I would love to do like a classic tiki night where I'm playing surf rock and I'm playing exotica music, playing like Hawaiian and world music. And one bar got back to me, and that's Tiki on 18th in Adams Morgan. And honestly, I'm so thrilled to partner with them because they're more of like a modern tiki bar. So they still have a lot of like the classic drinks and the classic decor and like the decorative mugs, but it's just like very modern, very sophisticated. And that's kind of how I like to operate, where it's like I love vintage stuff, but I'm not trying to reenact an era. Cause like to me, it's like, well, that's over. Like, let's make it something now. So I think it's the perfect pairing. So once a month on the first Thursday of the month, I do Tiki Vinyl night, where for the first half of the night, I do like the classics. Like I said, like surf, exotica, Hawaiian. So I've been expanding my exotica collection pretty big in the past month. Like I had a friend from Hawaii ship me records. And then in the second half of my DJ night, I kind of do like, dealer's choice, the world of cinema hearts, where I'll do like classic rock or glam metal or DC local music like go-go
Oh,
or some punk
okay.
stuff. Just kind of whatever I'm feeling as the late night happens.
So I thought it would be like that kind of music the entire night. So they give you kind of leeway with
No,
that.
you
That's
know what's
nice.
funny? And I tried to do it the whole night. So my first Tiki Vinyl night was last month in April. And I was really nervous because like I just didn't know. I was like, who's gonna really be into like like hearing like a soft jazz lounge record that has animal noise? It's like who's gonna get it? But surprisingly, like a good amount of people there like came because I was doing like the old tiki music. And then like, a lot of other folks were just like my friends who were just there for a good time and for the vibes. So I tried as hard as I could to do surf the whole 4 hours. And I mean, it got a little tricky because like once I ran through like the A sides and I ran through the B sides, like not every surf record has like the greatest songs. Some are duds. And also like I was just kind of feeling more like party mode as the night went on.
Mhm.
So I decided for my second Tiki Vinyl night, which is happening May 7th, 2026 in DC. I'm gonna kind of structure it where the first half is more that like classic sound, and then the second half's more like free form.
Yeah. I, I dig it. I love it.
Thanks.
Great. Yeah. I'll have to look at so where is it actually in DC then?
It's in Adams Morgan.
And like give me
That's the
like a
neighborhood.
landmark near that. Yeah.
Oh, what's near there? Smash Records? I don't know. It's not really like I mean, I guess you could walk from the mall. It's a hike. But
So it's
yeah,
more northwest or central?
it's northwest.
Okay.
Um yeah, so Adams Morgan was like traditionally like a very artistic neighborhood. Like they had this very famous bar where all the punk bands played called Madam's Organ.
Okay.
Um this great world music cafe, Bossa, is in Adams Morgan. Smash Records, which is like a punk record store. It's one of the oldest record stores of DC. That's in Adams Morgan.
Okay.
So it's also kind of cool to be like a part of that legacy in a
Sure.
new way.
And so do you work at Right On Records or do you
I
just help them?
do.
So talk about
Well,
that. How
that's my boyfriend's store. So I got roped in. However, he also sources me the rarest records. So he owns a record store in Herndon, Virginia, and specializes in all used vintage vinyl. And it's also kind of funny because my boyfriend Garen and I met at a record store years ago in our hometown of Fairfax, Virginia. We met at the Fairfax Record and Tape Exchange where he was working and I was a customer. And then we dated, we broke up, didn't see each other for 7 years, got back together. And then by that point, he owned his own record store. So it's just kind of cool how like music and vinyl has been a big part of our lives. And one of the greatest things about working in a record store and, living with a record owner is like you get to be exposed to a lot of music that you might not normally get. Kind of like what I said earlier, where it was like anti algorithm. Like, this is like a person recommending something to you. And it's also really cool because like something I even think about with my own album is, like what if my record didn't sell? What if it didn't sell? Who's to say that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it is one of the most sought after records because there were so few pressings? Because that's the reality is like the records that flopped in the 60s or 70s or 80s or whatever, those are the ones sometimes that people want. Not always, but sometimes. We all want the private press.
That it is so that is such a kind of like cool like underground part of like the vinyl industry. Like
Hmm.
a lot of people don't know about that. Obviously, you kind of were brought into that world because of your boyfriend, or did you kind of know that already?
I mean, I knew it already. I was the one shopping in the store
Yeah.
when I first met him. So like records were always a part of my life.
Yeah.
But I will credit Garen. Like that's how I got started DJing. Because a friend of his once asked me to DJ, and I had never done it, and I just said, "Oh yeah, sure." And then Garen loaned me his turntables, and I just learned how to do it, and kept getting asked to do it, and I had a blast. And I think it's really cool to be a songwriter, a musician who's also into vinyl in that way because it's like I I'm like really heavy on like artistic craft and like studying the greats and like knowing who came before you. And I feel like record collecting is such a great way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am also a trivia host, and so
Whoa. Are you
I
gonna
have
are you gonna quiz me?
no,
Well,
but I
you
have six.
should. Wait, do it.
I have well, let me get to my boyfriend. So
You got all the questions.
I have six different venues, but in
Okay.
between the rounds, I play music, and it's
Hmm.
like so I get to DJ as well. So like, I appreciate your appreciation of having like, I hate to say control, but like,
No, you have to curate the vibe.
right, yeah,
And with like the tiki bar, so here's the funny thing, and it makes sense. Like the majority of the time at Tiki on 18th, where I DJ, the majority of the time they're playing top 40 hits, or they'll have other DJs like more like Latin or hip hop or dance music, which that's great. That's what the people want to dance to and drink to. But at the same time, it's like you're a tiki bar is then there's such that's stuck in such an era and it has a soundtrack. So I just think it's so cool that the owner was like all in on having a night that was curated to that tradition, and it just feels so right. Because like I've done that kind of music like at like normal rock clubs, and I don't think it hits the same.
So coming from, let's get back to this whole Miss America thing because I'm fascinated.
Oh,
So like coming from that world where you're judged
mhm.
against other people, and it's obviously a judgment of like the best or whatever, whatever their categories are, to then dive into music where music is also kind of subjective to the individual person that listens to it. Like did you take any lessons from that like kind of world
Absolutely.
to
I feel
music?
like there's no way I could have gone to South by Southwest or done any of the big shows we've done had I not done Miss America. And a lot of that was because so in a pageant, you're not really competing against the other contestants. You're competing against yourself. Like you have to show up on that stage as your best self at your 100%, like not cutting corners. And if you're doing that, you'll probably win. Because like what happened to me was I would have so much anxiety about trying to be a type of person I wasn't, or trying to fit a mold a certain way, or like my talent was doing electric guitar. And I was like, oh, is it going to work? Are people going to like me? Are people going to get it? And I really think if I had just been my truest self 100% unapologetically, I think I could have won. And now that will haunt me forever, but that's okay because with Cinema Hearts, I will be Miss America for the rest of my life. So that's pretty cool. Um, but in relation to music, of course, it's like it's not competitive, but it is in a way. There's a bill only has a certain amount of slots, or a person will only have money to buy a certain amount of records, whatever. There are some limitations. But it's like, I think for a band, it's like if you are doing everything that you can to your fullest potential, how could you fail? And that's something I've really pushed myself to do because, I second guess Cinema Hearts a lot. I'm like, do people really like oldies music? Like, are people gonna get it? Like, are people gonna like that I don't whisper sing? I have so many like self doubts over our sound. But then, I think I've worked really hard to do the best I can each and every day. And it's also incredible. Like I said, we played a festival yesterday, and honestly, like I'm always surprised at how much people love Cinema Hearts, and it's just it's really flattering because I feel like I had to fight and defend for it for a decade, and now people are like catching on. Um,
I will
but
say this. I will say
yeah,
this. Like seeing you for the first time at Lucky Ducks, I get it. Like you are
thanks.
there is a presence that you have that I think is very like it's very like magnetic. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
thank you. No,
Like
that was planned. So no, but I think some of that did come from like the Miss America thing in a way. Because the thing also about doing pageants is like, I think sometimes what I see amongst my peers who are also musicians or who are front people is they fear um, being uh, extra on stage. They fear taking the lead, taking the audience on a journey. And I've learned like, oh, the audience wants that.
yeah.
The audience wants to see you be big. They want to see you like shine. They want to see you have an ego. This is a safe space to do that. Whereas like if you're in the office, no one wants to see that. No one wants to see that at school. But if you're on stage, that's allowed. So I've really learned to just kind of like shine in that power and like not take it for granted.
So let's talk about, something that a little darker because, there's been a lot going on in the world and especially in
Hmm.
Washington, D.C. the past like 2 years. Like,
Hmm.
how have you felt that? Like, and do you feel like the citizens of the city feel it as well?
Absolutely. I mean, and I think also there's like this joke too that there's two DCs. So, you have the folks on Capitol Hill who work in the government who maybe won't be living here once the different terms change. And then you have the people who grew up in the city proper, or people who are in the suburbs, or people, who work in DC and love it, or people who moved there from other places and love it. And I think because I love the culture of DC so deeply, I often forget, like, oh yeah, we're the political city too. Like, what's funny? The other day, my boyfriend and I were driving back from a record store in DC, and we actually happened to pass through Adams Morgan, and there was so much traffic, and we were really confused. We were like, what is happening? And then we saw people in suits like walking by, and we were like, oh, is there a funeral? Like, I didn't know there was a cemetery near here. It must be a funeral. But it was packed. It took us forever to get out of the city. And then we went to go see my boyfriend's dad for dinner. And my boyfriend's dad used to work for the Clinton administration. So he's kind of like old school politics. And we were like, hey, like, do you know if someone important died today? Like there was a lot of cars. And he said, democracy. We were like, oh, that's a good one. And then he said, let's turn on the White House Correspondents' Dinner. We were like, oh, we didn't even know that was happening. And that's when the news was right on about shots being fired. And then we realized, oh, we were driving by the Correspondents' Dinner. Like we in our car probably nearly hit other cars going to the Correspondents' Dinner.
Oh
But
my.
like that just goes to show, like, we live around here, but like we aren't paying attention to that just because we're not in that scene. But I think that it's also upsetting that like so much of the national conversation is not about the real culture. Like it's upsetting to see the National Guard on the sidewalk who's also not helping with anything. Or to see how like the citizens of DC, because it's not a state, like don't get the same kind of like allocations or respect or school funding that they deserve. So, you know, hopefully things will change in a few
Mhm.
years. But I think what's good is that no matter what, because I think the city has always gone through these sort of tumultuous times. But no matter what, I think because of that, like culture and that connection that the community has, like the good people always find each other in DC. That's why it's like incredible to see. We had this basketball game that was a big deal in our music scene called Mosh Madness, and we raised money for the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund, and all of these bands played basketball while other bands were performing, and like that is DC culture. That is what I'm talking about. Or like when I got to see Dave Grohl do a secret show with Foo Fighters at the Black Cat last summer, and everyone was lining up and we're cheering on. That is the DC culture. So, and that's not what the news is showing.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, there's another person that's been in the news a lot lately, Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters. They just put out their new album. He had his whatever was going on with him personally, but you can't deny like that
Hmm.
band is iconic, that area, Northern Virginia, DC, they're all
Yeah,
Ball
and I think
Brains,
a lot of I think our connection does stem from like that like punk DIY ethos.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, let's talk about, I mean, that's a good segue. Let's talk about some of the venues in DC for people who, aren't familiar. You've got the 930 Club, you've got the Black Cat, the Anthem,
Hmm.
that the Songbird. I was there. What a great venue.
Oh yeah, Songbird's cool. We're
Yeah.
playing there. It was announced today. I don't know when this podcast is going up, but we're playing there May 19th, 2026. We're gonna open for Vile.
Oh, no. Kurt Vile?
No, like Vile, the girl band. That would be
Oh,
cool too.
that would be cool. Nice. Oh, yeah. So talk about, yeah, I mean, talk about these venues and are there some
Hmm.
venues in particular that are more like, I guess open to like indie bands and unsigned bands?
Sure. I mean, what's cool is I would say the majority are. DC's funny because like I was joking to people, it's so competitive to book shows. And I think it's just because like, a lot of touring bands want to come through here. But also I think there's a lot more local bands in the city than when I started, which, that's great and all. Um, but like I would say like for an emerging band, Pie Shop is great. It's on H Street. DC9, which is off of U Street corridor, also a cool smaller venue. The Pocket at Seven Drum City, that's also a great spot. My favorite, which might not be the easiest for a first show, my favorite's the Atlantis though, which is a spin-off of the 930 Club. I love the Atlantis.
Yeah, I've not been there. I'm dying to go there. That them and the Anthem, right? Because aren't they right next to each other?
No, 930 Club and Atlantis are right next
Oh, that's
to
right.
each
Okay.
other. The Anthem is a little ways away. That's in the Wharf.
Right. Near north towards the Nationals Park, right?
That's Navy. It's near the water. It's on the Potomac River, but
Okay.
it's not super close to Nats Park.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's in it's confusing. That's in Navy Yard.
Navy Yards. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we actually were down in your neck of the woods last weekend because we went to
Oh,
the zoo
cool.
to see the pandas.
Oh, nice.
And then we like to go to National Harbor, at
Mm-hmm.
the MGM there. There's that Osteria restaurant. They do a Sunday brunch there that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of
Cool.
make a day of it, hit there for brunch and then go to the zoo and, but yeah, I mean, it's nice for me because where we live, we're about 2.5, 2:15 from you guys, hour and a half from Baltimore. It's funny to me though, because I've interviewed a bunch of bands from Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm getting to interview some bands from DC like you guys. And it's funny to me that like for two cities that are 45 minutes away,
Oh, they're not though. They're not.
well, what I mean, with traffic, of course, it's more, but like it's so weird that like the scenes, it's completely like they
Yeah,
don't really
that is
intersect.
interesting because what's weird? This is something I want to research more. In the 70s and 80s, a lot of bands they would combine Washington, Baltimore. Like
Sure.
I have like an old radio compilation from the 80s that was like a battle of the bands, and it had bands from DC and Baltimore. Like they were considered the same market. And I was reading about some band. I can't remember what it was. It might have been like, I don't remember. It was some local band. And I was like, oh, cool. They're from the area. Oh, I remember. It was like this 60s psych band that they have this rare record and they were from DC. But then when I looked them up, it said like, oh, they were kind of Baltimore more so. So again, it was like the combination of the scenes. But I think it's hard to get to Baltimore. It is so hard. And because it's like, it can be like a 2 hour drive because of the traffic. Because I would love to go to Baltimore more, but sometimes it's just you have to go at like the right time.
So
But
you
yeah, the
think that
cultures
is,
are very different.
but do you think that is one of the main reasons though, that it's just the distance?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do. I think it's the distance. You also have to consider like economically, I think because DC has the government, there is more there's more gentrification, you
Mhm.
know. And then in Baltimore, I think also because it's just there's not as much industry there as there once was. So it's unfortunate. Like a lot more of the town in some areas are more run down. But I do think Baltimore is going to become like the next hub because a lot of my friends they're moving out that way. There's great spots in Baltimore, and I think folks from Baltimore are so funny. Like I was looking at the Orioles recently, and my God, the Orioles fans are hilarious compared to like Nats fans. Like there's just I know why because Turnstile's from Baltimore and they're having an Orioles night. And just I think people from Baltimore have such they're a little less uptight than DC people, which is like really admirable.
Yeah, that's probably fair. It's funny you mentioned Turnstile. I had not heard of them until they did that free show in
Oh
a
yeah, yeah,
park in
yeah. In the
Baltimore, and it was
field.
on YouTube.
Yeah, and I
Oh
thought
my
about
God.
going. I think I had like work or something that day. And also I was like a little scared to go to a big show where I didn't have enough details. And I was like, I'll just see what my friends go. But yeah, it looked cool. I saw their like feature film in theaters with all the music videos.
Yeah, I mean, I watched that YouTube video and I was like, oh my, like it was just it was on one hand it was like I was so proud that like that can still happen, but on the other end, on the other end of it, it was like, oh my God, like somebody's gonna get hurt. Like there's
Hmm.
like people were going nuts. It was just that mosh pit was nuts, and the stage diving, and you know, it's good old rock and roll, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I think they're probably the best rock band at the moment.
Yeah. So DC
Next to
101,
Cinema Hearts.
Cinema Heart. So,
Nah.
so DC 101, they're kind of
Yeah.
really are they the only real rock station now in DC? Are there other stations that like
There's
iHeartRadio?
Big 100.3, the classic rock station, but DC 101 is the only like alt rock station. And I visited in January and played a live set with our bassist Massimo. And I think they said it's the top alt rock station nationwide and one of the longest running. So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, because it used to be HFS, like that was
Yeah, that there used to be HFF, yeah.
yeah. I got to go to some of the HFS festivals before they
Oh,
stopped
cool.
doing them, and yeah, it was that radio station was great. And it sucks that so many radio stations have folded. Like there's some great Philly stations that are no more because
Hmm.
it's iHeartRadio taking over. The
Right,
Walmart
right.
of radio, right?
Yeah.
So, let's talk about then this, or actually, I want to talk about what your take is on AI
Hmm.
and music. Do you feel
Ooh.
like this is as much of a problem as people are saying? Do you feel like it's something that you might possibly use? Like, what is your take on it?
Well, what's weird is lately, a lot of AI songs with the title Cinema Hearts have been popping up.
I
And
saw.
I'm very sure it's because my band name is associated with music and that is somehow been pulled in. So I'm on the case to get this stuff taken down. I'm waiting for my trademark to finalize and then we're reporting all that. I mean, most AI doesn't sound very good. However, I will say the Beatles edit of the Red album that used AI and the that Now and Then song, that I was really impressed with. Cause like I just feel like it's like it's no different than like when we started having synthesizers in music and all the orchestra musicians were trying to like protest and say like this is gonna ruin music and it still happened. You know, synthesizers still happen. Like I'm not the biggest fan of like 100% AI music. Like it sounds like super derivative. And like music for the most part, like if it's like in bad taste, already is very derivative. Um, but I think we would be like, I think we'd be naive to ignore that it's happening. You know, my boyfriend made a good point. He was like, Prince would have probably used AI to make a song. And I was like, you know, you're probably right. So I feel like if we can use it in like an artistic way, like I would love to see actually an AI edit of like some of these old 60s soul songs that I love so dear. Or if I could hear an AI restoration of a Ronettes album, I would love to hear that. The one like in the same way as the Beatles. Or, you know, if I would not be opposed to one day, like instead of having to record like 10 different harmony tracks, if I could AI all that. I mean, I already like Melodyne and copy and paste it. Like, how is that any less artificial? But I think nothing will ever like top human creativity. You know, I don't think a robot can write a poem. So at the end of the day, like I think it's no different than maybe a musical instrument. Have I used it? Like, no. But I fortunately haven't had to. Like I have a talented band and like great producers and like what we're making isn't really lending itself to that.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think we have to acknowledge that it's here.
Yeah. I guess so. We're talking about songwriting again.
Hmm.
Now that you have the full band, is it more of a collaborative effort, or is it still kind of you basically doing most of the
It's
song?
both. It's both. So on our new record, I did collaborate with my bassist Massimo Zaruroke on a few songs to kind of come up with like the song structure. Like we have a song we play live called Rituals that Massimo and I wrote together. Like he wrote this really great. We had this kind of concept of like what if he had a bass line that stayed the same, but like my melody changed. And so that was kind of our starting point. And you know, Danny and I have like worked on different songs together. So I think it's really cool that all three of us have different taste in music and have different ideas. Like it's not like all three of us love 60s rock because that would get kind of boring. Um, so it's always great to like have them or like have my producers kind of like be like editors. But usually I'll bring like a song idea to the band, like a chord progression or like some lyrics I'm thinking of, and then like I hear what they say, and then I workshop it a bit, and then put it all together.
Yeah. So we got to talk about the big event of the summer, right? You
Hmm.
guys are playing Let's Go Festival in
Let's
Annapolis,
go.
Maryland. Let's fucking go because what a huge opportunity. Like, talk about this. Like,
Yeah, I'm very excited. We're playing the Let's Go Fest outside Annapolis, Maryland. We're there June 6th. We're probably going to be on around like 4 p.m., but the festival is June 5th and 6th, Friday, Saturday. Headliners are Sublime, Natasha Bedingfield, AJR, Matt and Kim, Cinema Hearts. We're at the very bottom of the poster, but we're there. So it's very cool to be able to like, this is going to be our biggest show yet. And like it's also weird, like, oh yeah, it's coming up because like I've known about it, I guess, since December. And you know, way back in December, I'm like, oh yeah, that's far in the future. And now we're kind of a month out. And like I was talking with the band, I was like, oh, we gotta like set up our rehearsals. Cause sometimes it's very hard for all three of us to meet with our schedules. And I was like, guys, we gotta lock in. We gotta make this good. But we're very excited for it.
yeah, I mean, we reached out to them and they were very accommodating. So we're gonna be
Nice.
covering the whole festival. We'll be there for
Cool.
both days. So it'll be great to see you guys again. Yeah, so I guess the question is have you spent a lot of time in Annapolis, or is Annapolis like so far
Actually,
away for you
this will be
guys?
my first time in Annapolis.
Okay.
It's not terribly far. I think it's about an hour. It's more of like a Navy military type of area. I have gone to parts of Maryland. I was actually in the Chesapeake Bay a couple weekends ago, um, in Scientist Cliffs, Maryland, and on the bay. So that's been pretty cool. But like, there's like always, I'm on the Virginia side of things. I grew up in Northern Virginia. And like, I think there's always been this like weird rivalry between Maryland, Virginia. I mean, those who get it. So of course, at the end of the day, I still have to be Virginia hometown girl. But you know what? Being near the Bay, I was like, I get it. Maryland's got some cool vibes to it.
Well, and going back to your love of Dick Dale and like Hawaii surf rock, I
Hmm.
I used to live in Ocean City, Maryland for like
Hmm.
7 years, like back when I was in my 20s, and he actually came to town, so I actually got to
Oh,
see
cool.
him live.
Yeah, I saw him. Where did I see him? I actually saw him in Maryland too. Actually, it might have been Annapolis, and I don't remember. I saw it at a Rams.
Yeah,
It might have been
Ramsey.
the Annapolis one. Yeah.
Yeah,
But like I didn't get to see the town. We just went for the show.
yeah. It's a great town. I
That's
mean,
cool. He was so cool live.
yeah, yeah, and just funny. Like he just was a great storyteller. Like
Yeah.
he was great, and the band was great too. His drummer was fantastic.
I think his drummers, I don't know if it was when you saw him, but when I saw him, it was his son.
Well, I mean, this is 20 years ago, so I'm not sure, but yeah,
Yeah, it might have
could
been
have
different,
been.
but I
Yeah.
know his son played in the band.
That's so cool. And that makes complete sense, really, after you tell me
Yeah.
that. Well, Caroline, thank you so much for doing this. So tell everybody how to, find you on the internet, on the web, all the socials, all that stuff.
Well, you can find me and my band Cinema Hearts on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, heck, Facebook if that's your vibe. But mostly Instagram and TikTok. That's where I'm going to be posting like the sassy behind the scenes, all of the updates, the social media you were talking about. That's on there. You want to come to Tiki Night? That's on there. You want to come to Let's Go Fets? That's on there. And like I said, I love to chat with people on the internet. That's how you and I connected on the internet. So follow Cinema Hearts and stream us, please. I'm begging because our numbers are getting sad. So you can stream us on Spotify, click that follow, and then when the new record's out, you're gonna be first to know.
That's a good song title. The numbers are getting sad.
Wait, write that down. Write that down.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That also helps us and helps the bands and artists like Cinema Hearts. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear, RAR. And as always,
Rawr.
ladies and gentlemen, I've been Dog. She's been Caroline. This is the Music Lab podcast.